Welcome to 21 for 21, the podcast that brings you all the latest news on sports and the media in the 21st century. Now, this is the second part of last week's episode, where we gave you a bit of an introduction into NFTs and fan tokens in the sports industry and how the technology actually works. And this week, we're going to look further into what that really means for sports fans, and if you're interested in getting in on the NFT craze, where you can look and what types of things that are already available. So that's the second part of our interviews with Joe Downie from NiceHash and Philipp Harrold from FanZone, as well as looking at a case study with Fran Wyld from MotoGP. Now, in our second episode, me, Stuart Levy, our sports marketer, and Jamie, who is our
Hello.
who is our sorry?
I'm a sports journalist here in Barcelona.
Yeah, so in episode 2, which is already a few weeks ago now, we looked at the rise of women's football and that the different ways in which they're using less traditional broadcasters to bring their game to a wider audience. So we spoke in that second episode about the Burnley women who are streaming their games on TikTok. They were getting pretty high attendance figures, pretty high viewing figures on TikTok, bearing in mind this is a women's third division game. So they launched their season on TikTok against Nottingham Forest women, who Forest women themselves then played in the main men's stadium, the world famous City Ground, against Derby on the weekend, and it got 4,500 fans in the stadium, which we think was the world record for a women's third division game, which is pretty impressive, Jamie.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. Barca women played at the Camp Nou last year, but still in pandemic COVID times, and they weren't allowed an attendance. So it's nice to see that attention that women's football is getting, especially in the UK, as it's hitting BBC and Sky, and it's getting out there on public TV, on open TV even, such as the BBC. Similarly, the UEFA Women's Champions League kicked off this week, and as we mentioned in episode 2, that's all going to be, every single match is going to be broadcast live and then available on demand on YouTube, thanks to a deal that UEFA, YouTube, and DAZN have reached to bring the Women's Champions League to the world. And basically, they've got this idea that their slogan is kind of like, more eyes, we all rise. And it's this idea that the more exposure the sport gets, the better for everyone. And I think that's absolutely true. And we saw quite a large number of people watching those matches live and then later on catch up on YouTube. I'm going to sort of look to Stuart because he's got, I think, the numbers in front of him. But certainly the biggest fixtures, Stuart, were Wolfsburg, Chelsea.
And Barcelona, Arsenal. So obviously Wolfsburg, Chelsea. So Wolfsburg have won it 2 or 3 times, the Women's Champions League, and Chelsea were last year's beaten finalists. So we saw about 300,000 total viewers for Chelsea and Wolfsburg in both English and German on the DAZN YouTube. And then Barcelona v Arsenal, which had the interest of Barcelona as last season's champions, and Arsenal, who are traditionally one of the powerhouses in women's sport in England, got almost 500,000 streams.
Wow, so 500,000 streams worldwide is very impressive, really, for this little women's sport that allegedly no one cares about. So
yeah, it's just match day 1 as well. So this is only gonna grow. I think a day or 2 before the first match day, Adidas became the title sponsor of this idea of DAZN on YouTube. So yeah, the numbers are going only going to rise, and it's pretty. It is impressive for the first week that the combined views, or 55,000 subscribers, and yeah, the combined views, it's several million. So it really is good to see, and I'm sure we'll all be tuning in the following weeks.
Yeah, definitely, and there's some big matches still to come. Certainly, the home legs of those 2 matches will be interesting. Seeing Barca competing against Arsenal at the Emirates, and Chelsea and Wolfsburg, the clash, very much clash of the Titans.
mean, of course, it's the first year of the women's group stage as well. So again, it's a new thing that
there's
we're
a new
able
format
to
to the
see these.
competition. So it's good that there's more matches in that sense. Sorry, I'm speaking over you, Stuart.
No, it's the opportunity.
I commentated the Barca Arsenal match with a former Arsenal goalkeeper, and so I had a great time on Tuesday night doing that match. And Arsenal so far are unbeaten in the Women's Super League. They're top of the table, and Barca, I have to say, ran rings around them. Sorry to any Gunners fans out there.
Yeah, no, it is really interesting to see. We're probably on the strength of women's football leagues in different countries can be a whole different topic. But Arsenal there, and Barcelona, I guess, unbeaten in the Spanish league, I think as well this year.
Yeah.
So it's two
unbeaten they've not had
teams.
A goal difference. Not had a goal difference than less than 5 goals.
Oh gosh, so they're thrashing teams each week. So
wow.
It's definitely an exciting time if you're a Barcelona Femini. Did I pronounce that correctly? Barca Femini fan.
Yeah, and there are plenty of them, and they're very passionate as well. These the women's football fans. I'm just gonna let that ambulance pass. But yeah, no, it's nice to see this kind of big community rising around women's football, because there's no reason why it couldn't grow into being just as big a sport as men's football, and getting that kind of audience and viewership. So, and for me, the more competition, the more football, the better. I think that's
of course.
So this week, as Stuart mentioned before, we are going to return to cryptocurrencies, NFTs, fan tokens, everything that we learned about on last week's episode, which was sort of a part 1 to this episode. And it was absolutely enlightening. We learned, I don't know about you, Stuart, but I kind of went into it completely blind. And I really enjoyed learning about all these different the ways that fan tokens and NFTs can work and what it can offer the fans, and researching it as well. There's so much there that I had no idea about just 2 weeks ago. So
so certainly the same. I think what we hope to get out of Joe and Philipp in part 1 was a bit of an introduction into how things work and what their particular companies actually do, and what we're about to bring you today is how it might work for the fans, everyday fans, and how the idea of this is still such at the very, very beginning of such a technology hitting the mainstream. I said the non-fungible tokens, NFTs, might be only a mainstream or popular phrase within the last year or so, but we've really got a far greater understanding of how they're here to stay, and they will be talked about as part of the everyday experience for years and years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to hear it now, I know, but there was a quote from Philipp that you're going to hear, which was sort of, he explained that they're not taking anything away from the sport, because I think from a fan perspective, that's always a bit of a worry, is that, what's this going to do to the sport? Is this kind of, when VAR came in, for example, it was a new technology that came into the sport, and people kind of worried about it ruining the flow of the game or the entertainment. And arguably there's still issues with VAR that they're ironing out. But Philipp sort of talked about NFTs, and he says, we're not looking to take away any of the passion. Actually, we're looking to inject even more passion and allow fans to take that passion with them forever, essentially, and remember it in a way that's unique to them.
Yeah, I mean, the NFT, it's a digital collectible. You're right, it doesn't influence the game. It doesn't influence what's actually happening on the pitch. You can still enjoy this 90-minute match, 11 players on each side. This is just something to remember that particular event or the player by, in the same way that match programs or scarves or collectible badges have been for generations before.
Yeah, and I think Fran certainly echoed that in her interview as well when she spoke about the MotoGP fan tokens and NFTs, which we'll hear about in just a moment's time. But she really said that was a way for passionate fans to really invest in the sport that they love and really double down on that passion. So yeah, let's kick off then by heading back to Joe Downie, who is going to talk to us about the valuations and what fans can do with NFTs.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fan tokens is a very interesting aspect to it. because this is not the same, because they essentially give something to the fans in the sense that they're like a membership. So as well as being a cryptocurrency, they're also like a membership token. But the difference being your membership is tied to the token that can be exchanged or sold on later. So it gives you more than like a traditional membership in a sense. So it's not the same as gambling like with NFTs in a sense where they're much more speculative. The fan tokens are a little bit more tied to the club, and they're more tied to the actual fans, and you can give discounts, for example, with them for merchandise or for tickets, or you can give access to special areas of the stadium or access to special events by holding this token. So it gives it's quite different in that sense.
I think I did see that. So you're right. I think you have the Barcelona fan token, and you get to vote on. I think it was something like the message on the captain's armband, or I think the Arsenal one. It was if you have the Arsenal fan token, it allows you to choose which music is played when the team score. So I guess a fan token, it is a crypto rather than an Arsenal fan investing in Bitcoin. You should invest in an Arsenal fan token because it gets them that little bit of extra connection to Arsenal, to their club.
Yeah, when we spoke to
brings
MotoGP,
engagement. Yeah,
MotoGP, they sort of said it's reinforcing that belief and that passion that you have for the sport as a fan as well. It's giving you almost a stake in the fan, in the sport.
Yeah, exactly. I think I think the fan tokens are very cool, to be honest. I think it's a really interesting way if you compare it to the traditional membership, okay, you get invited to some events or you get different perks. But from the fan token point of view, there's a lot more you can do with it. There's so much more you can add value to that for your fans.
And we're only at the beginning, right? This is just getting started. The usage and the utility of NFTs are just getting started right now. And yes, there's a lot of money thrown around. I mean, we've seen that in the last 2 weeks. There's Fanatics, So Rare, and Dapper Labs, who've I think collectively now got a valuation of I think like 20 billion. Sorry, 20 billion. So the three companies now valued at 20 billion. Hello, what's happening here? But that's brilliant. I love it. It's a tech space that everyone can trust in because it's so transparent.
Definitely.
I want to ask. Sorry, Stuart.
Go ahead.
I want to ask. So we're talking a lot about the technology side of things, and it seems that a lot of tech fans, a lot of perhaps people that have already traded cryptocurrencies that maybe have some understanding of the blockchain are very excited about this sort of thing. You call yourself a businessman, so I want to know how you're bringing fans into the mix. What are the barriers for fans? Why would a fan perhaps buy something, and how do you market to fans? Because to me, this seems, certainly the gamified side of it, it seems little more than fantasy football. So what's the way that you're selling this to a fan like myself who has very little background knowledge of crypto or blockchain or NFTs?
That's a brilliant question. That's actually something that we discuss a lot about at the moment. Is it seems to be we're on that moment in time now where it's taken out of the shadow, out of the crypto expert niche, out of the crypto world, where obviously NFTs have been traded for the past 3-4 years, right? Crypto kitties are 4 years old now. So we're at that moment in time. So I think there's 2 levels how I can answer this. One is usability and user experience. So for example, at FanZone, we were immediately sure we need an Android app and we need an iOS app, right? It needs to be easily downloadable. Yes, you can connect your crypto wallet to it, but you don't need to. Not if you're not interested in the NFT side of things. If you don't want to extract it and take it to your wallet, you'll just leave it on the FanZone server. You just leave it on there. That's fine. So it's an easy 2-factor authorization at the beginning. It's not you do not need to connect your metaverse, your MetaMask wallet or your Coinbase wallet or whatever they are. You just log in, email address, 2-factor authorization, done. That's step one, right? It needs to be accessible. The hurdles need to be reduced. That's one. And then two is, and Jamie, I agree with you a lot there. Is it fantasy gaming, fantasy sports? Now that the little picture that I see on my screen now is an NFT, what does that even mean? Right? That's exactly the question. That's why the technology is only the basis of it all. The technology is not the business model. The technology is, again, it's a database approach. How boring is that? Right? That's not marketable. So ultimately, the only question is, what is the utility? That's the magic word. What is the utility of the NFT? What can I do with the NFT? Does it get me anywhere? Will I get digital assets? Will I get digital access to things that I didn't get before? Or connection to the physical world, do I get access to things that I didn't get before? And that can be numerous things, right? It can be play to earn games. Can I win money with this? Can I've seen approaches where if you own this NFT by November 30th, you will get invited to the game. You will get access to a barbecue with the athlete, whatever it is. And I think what the NFTs can do, once people understand that they are not dependable on the single game, they're not dependable on the single server, is that when you buy an NFT, let's stay in the fantasy sports section. When you buy the striker from La Liga or Premier League or the Bundesliga or wherever, that even if, let's say you do it at fanzone.io, touch wood, fanzone.io, I don't know, goes bankrupt next month, or we get bought or something, or the platform disappears, that NFT is still there. That's going to survive. It's going to be there forever. But again, I think from a market perspective, we need to show that that's the case, that's the brilliance, that it will stay, that the asset stays true, even if the issue or the original creator is not part of the game anymore.
The gamification aspect of it is really interesting because it's you can do it with so many things. You can do it with almost anything. You can gamify the process of doing something. So then the collecting becomes a different thing. It's not even collecting anymore. It's like a game or speculating. We see it a lot with video games, of course. People, video game makers, they are making NFTs into it, directly into their platforms. So when you're in the game, you can win an NFT or find one, things like this.
Okay, and so that would be like
really,
a unique
really
item, sort of a weapon, or
exactly, yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah.
So, as Jamie was saying, so if somebody were to now buy a Robert Lewandowski NFT and sell it when it might double in value when he retires in 2 or 3 years' time, do you see investments in NFTs and crypto again being considered as gambling in some ways by some regulators, perhaps?
Yeah, I think in some ways it can be seen like this. There's lots of different aspects to it, to the investing side of crypto. With the NFTs at the moment, it is very much like gambling, because it's very, very loose in a sense. But we do start to see regulations coming in for crypto, which I think is going to be beneficial in the long term, because it's when you start some new technology, there's no sort of rules or it's very difficult for people to invest a lot of money if you don't know what's going to happen to that. If it gets completely banned or something, then you don't want to invest a lot of money into it. With crypto, we've seen it's not the case. It's here to stay. It's become so big, and there's so many companies involved in it. There's so much money into it. It's kind of here to stay. But for things like NFTs, that there will probably come at some point some rules for it, a little bit like we see with gambling.
So is there maybe an element of sort of community building for sports NFT owners, or is there sort of an element there of, if I don't have an NFT, I'm lacking an investment in that world almost. But everyone that owns, I don't know, Bundesliga NFTs or even just football NFTs in general, they've all got this kind of vested interest in interacting in that world. Is that maybe perhaps part of the moving forward?
To me,
I'm
community
asking a
build.
question. I
Yeah.
don't know.
No, I agree with you 100%. To me, the key to success in any world is community building. It's all about the community. That's why we are called fan zone. That's why we have a zone approach where fans from different sports, from different verticals, from different zones can interact. Because we're never only just a fan of one thing, right? Maybe we're a rugby fan, but we also like football, but we also watch the Olympics. We also watch figure skating. I don't know, right? It's always something. And the network effects that we can get from different sports coming into one platform is the key to me. And we will see from a technology life cycle of how it evolves. I think we will see amazing things where at the moment, obviously the intellectual property, the IP is key, right? If you want a Lionel Messi NFT from his Barcelona times, you need to speak to La Liga or Barcelona. If you want, I don't know, Diego Maradona's Hand of God, you need to speak to FIFA. At some point, I think it will shift a little towards who's got the biggest community, who's got the most interesting things, right? When we look at what happened to TikTok, they're the quickest of all the social medias to hit the 1 billion users, right? The quickest ever. At first, they started with good content. Now the good content comes to them. So the ties have shifted somehow. And I think we will see the same.
Yeah, so it's we saw in the early this week, you guys were talking about linking up with VfL Wolfsburg Frauen, the women's team there. So you mean that if you want to build your reputation, build your network, so that the next team are going to approach you rather than saving you a bit of work in the marketing side, that they're approaching you rather than you approaching them?
It has a lot to do with trust and credibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every platform, I think the market is big enough, the world is big enough. Every platform will find their niche and that's good, right? Every car brand has their target group. Every I don't know, TV station, Netflix, everyone's got the specific niche that they can cater to. And well, it's not that our phone lines are now ringing every day, but it builds trust and credibility. And I think what is the biggest problem for rights holders at the moment? There's a new technology. They're probably being approached every day by numerous different platforms, but even numerous different approaches on how to mint NFTs, what to do, what the collection is, what they need to do, and everyone tells them what they need to do. So they're usually taking a step back and looking at what they always do is who has done it, what is a good example, what is a bad example, and also who's surviving the bubble, who's surviving the hype, right? And that's why at FanZone, we also try to emphasize, listen, we're a German company, we're out of Europe, we understand European football, we understand European sports, we're backed by Porsche. We try to tell them we're going to be there next year. We're here for the long game. This is not a sprint. The NFT game is a marathon. And yes, there'll probably be a lot of rights holders making crazy money at the moment, but this is a marathon that will continue forever, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's certainly interesting. So what you do need to do is what my understanding of, like back in England and I think in Germany as well, at football games, you used to get a physical match ticket, and you could also buy a physical program, a pre-game magazine. So I guess the market for an NFT is, because a match ticket, they're just a barcode on your phone now. So to prove to your friends in 40 years' time you're at that famous game for your team, you show them the NFT you bought from that game. That is, I guess, the end goal, to get people into that mindset that to prove you're at a game, you bought the NFT of the game. Is that?
You bought the NFT of the game. Maybe if you buy a specific ticket, you directly get the highlights as an NFT into your wallet straight after. Maybe you get the, I don't know, yesterday Cristiano Ronaldo scored the last minute winner for Man United. Maybe if you're in that, on that stand, on that side of Old Trafford, then maybe you get the photo that was taken from the photographer right below you. Maybe that's the experience because this is what I love. We're not taking the true things that are great about sports. We're not taking away the emotions. We're adding emotion. And I know that all of us remember the first time they were in the stadium. All of us have this great one moment that we remember, that maybe for I don't know, the English rugby fan. It's I don't know, that he got up early with his dad in the 2003 World Cup, for example, and that he remembers that. Or for German women's football fans, they remember the World Cup win in 2007. And we all have that memory. And if we can have that digitally and show it around, and not only physically in a shoebox somewhere in the back of our wardrobe where some of us record podcasts, and we can show it. And now coming back to universal profiles, we can display it. Our generation, the Instagram generation, loves to display their lives. Why not display your NFT tickets? Why not display your NFT memories of sports?
Yeah, so rather than putting on the fireplace at home, the scarf you bought from a certain game, you show online, look at my profile on Fan Zones. These are the 10 matches I saw this year. These are the 10 NFTs related to those matches.
I think, and there's about 100 things that I'm not thinking of right now that we will see in 10 years' time. One of the great things that Luxo does is they're creating universal profiles. That means that ultimately, all of the NFTs that are connected to the Luxo blockchain ecosystem will be available for everyone to see if you as a user share them, right? That means that let's take one of our examples. Let's take one of the German Football Federation, the women's team that we've got on our platform. So let's say we and the German Football Federation are the creators. So in the universal profile, you could click on, let's say, one of the main strikers, the captain, Alexandra Popp. You could click on her and you would see all of her NFTs. But you could also see what part of collection that is from. And you could click on the German Football Federation women's team. And then you could also click on the season maybe that's from, and then maybe from the original content creator, that's FanZone. That's a game changer. That's brilliant because it's decentralized on the blockchain. No one owns this content. Anyone that is able to write an HTML description can do that. From a user perspective, and I'm a good example because I'm stupid enough to not understand this, right? From a user perspective, it looks like a boring MySpace from 2005. Because the front end is not the amazing thing here. It's the back end that's amazing. It's the decentralized profiles that's amazing because it's on the blockchain. Everyone has access to it. Everyone can see it. It's 100% transparent. And then in the next step, everything could be tradable. Everything could have a price tag. Everything could be traded at any time.
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting that an NFT bought in one place, such as FanZone, can be displayed elsewhere. Like you've been to the stadium, you can put your different scarves from the different matches up on your mantelpiece, and you can use these universal profiles to show your digital collectibles in the same place, just like you would do normally. So we also caught up with Fran Wyld this week, who is, amongst other things, in charge of the PR and communications at MotoGP. And she explained from the sport, from the rights holders' perspective, how they are hoping to use NFTs to engage with their fans.
I think it's obviously something that's super popular now. And with anything like this, especially a company like Downie, where, like I said, that 360 event management philosophy, genuinely, it's not just sort of we own the TV rights and we will sell you them for this price. It's extremely hands-on with so many different things, and that includes the commercial and marketing aspects of it as well. So with things like this, of course, when there is kind of this surge forward in interest from fans and from like the business world as a whole, you always want to be surfing that wave rather than trying to chase it. So I think certainly that's one of those things. Like I said, there's a lot of crypto popping up in different places now. But to start with the fan token as well, because we also have NFTs that we launched a little bit earlier with Animoca Brands. That was the partner there. But the fan token certainly is kind of the first of its kind from a championship such as MotoGP. So quite an exciting one.
Okay, so I lost the thread a little bit then, I guess. I thought the two were the same. So you've got an NFT and an official fan token.
Yeah, it's the Animoca Brands as the partner doing the NFTs. I think it's on the Flow blockchain, which are sort of based more around collectibles of riders and teams. And then we also have, the MotoGP fan token itself, which is obviously the cryptocurrency, and then Bitchi are the cryptocurrency trading partner of the championship.
So obviously the big thing for this is, what does it mean for the fans? It's all good and well a competition having a fan token or NFT, but nothing happens unless the fans buy into them. So what does it offer the fans? What does it mean for the fans?
Well, it's pretty cool, I think, with seeing how quickly they sold as well. So there's obviously a lot of fan interest, and with cryptocurrency being such a kind of, I don't know what else to call it other than like a big deal, but there's probably a better, more technical term. But it is obviously such a kind of key thing for so many businesses and brands at the moment. I'm sure it will continue to be in the future. I think we saw as well, which country was it in Central America, I think, started using Bitcoin as official currency recently.
Yeah.
So
I can't tell you which one it was.
I can't remember either. Very sorry to whichever nation.
And there are some companies as well that will accept Bitcoin payments and things.
Exactly. So it's like, really gaining some traction. And I think so. Obviously, giving fans the opportunity to kind of maybe dabble in that if they haven't before, but also with a brand that they know and they can trust and that they love as well, because obviously the value, once they're all sold and then kind of it's open to buy and sell them, that depends on fan interest, and having seen how high it is already as well, it should be an interesting one once they are able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And then I just want to know, you as a sports fan, as a sports broadcaster, press officer, everything that you do, what are your kind of thoughts on this wave of fan tokens and NFTs that are being launched across the entire sector, really? Like, there's a lot of competitions now that are connected with a token or another.
There is. I think I like the competitive element, especially. Like, I think it will be interesting in the future. As we said, McLaren are a partner of Bitchi. Be interesting if you have all the teams within a competition have their separate kind of ones to add to that competitive edge. But in terms of championships and stuff, I think it is important for every sport or brand to retain and build on their relevance always. And that may not always be exactly what the original kind of soul of that brand was, because the world moves so quickly. And being relevant doesn't have to be being kind of superficial or anything negative at all, but it's important to always take stock of everything that you're competing with to get people's attention, which is obviously the way that you kind of survive as anything, as a sport or a TV show or anything at all. If no one's watching you, then you're going to not exist very long. So I think it's important to follow that. And I think it's also quite cool when you do give fans like something extra that they can interact with the sport with, if they, first of all, if it's people who can't come to an event or to a race in our case for any reason, or if it's people that don't want to buy a t-shirt or do XYZ, if their interest is already in that area and it's something they love, then it's another avenue for them to still be able to connect with the sport as well.
Yeah, nice. That's a really, I think, nice rounding up of what those coins and NFTs mean to sports and to fans. Yeah, and I think
it can be quite cool, because one thing for me, certainly, I'm not big into it in my personal life, but I do get a lot of the attraction in some ways, because I do like kind of having things and collecting them, but I don't like having physical copies or things that I can't physically
NFTs
move around.
are perfect for you then.
I know, this is the problem. It's like I had so many CDs when I was a teenager, and now it's actually a miracle that I can just hold all of that music in my hands. So, I mean, I get that, but I think it's an interesting and quite a scary world at times. But certainly it's something that should be expected of any brand or sport that's kind of really paying attention to the world, given how big it is at the moment.
Yeah, I saw something recently actually that said NFTs are the answer to the avid collector whose wife or husband say, "Where are you going to put all this stuff?" And that was kind of
this is true.
Yeah.
This is true. But yeah, obviously it does fall down with some things. I've seen some rather extreme takes online as well, where you're like, well, the real thing is no different to the NFT version because this. And it's like, that's not really true if it's, for example, a piano, because the value you get from something like that is from your physical interaction with it. But it is an interesting one, certainly. I guess it depends what you like. But yeah, for those collectors who maybe don't have 70 spare rooms, also an extra prayer answered.
And even if you're not a collector, it's having a stake in something that you believe in and love.
Exactly, yeah. It's kind of putting your power behind something that you like. And then whatever it is that you do like and support, obviously they gain from that. So it's another nice kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I think it's easy to sound quite cold with a lot of things in business and sport, especially because sport is a business, but it is also something more than a standard Wall Street checks and balances kind of business, because there is genuine passion from the vast majority of people who work in it. A lot of people who own teams, championships, everything else, like they do so for a reason. So I think that part of it is nice as well, to kind of, make that bond a little bit stronger and kind of put your value behind their value.
Nice. That's really good. I want to just go back to the comment you said about the competitiveness. Where,
Feel free.
You said about like different teams competing and the value of the currency sort of changing. Is that kind of what you were getting at?
Kind of, yeah. It could be an interesting one. I'm not sure in what way, but certainly because it's a little bit different within MotoGP, obviously it's the championship. Whereas in Formula One, it's been teams as well.
So so there are Formula One teams with socios as well, I think, which is another fan token platform or currency. But they have a lot of big football teams. They've got Manchester City, they've got Paris Saint-Germain, they've got Barcelona, they've got I can't remember any more of them, but a lot of the really big teams that are competing on the European stage are with socios, and they have their own exchange. And you could see as one team was doing, better in the competition, or one team got knocked out, the kind of the sell-off of those tokens, and obviously the knock-on effect on the value of them, did kind of go in line with the competition. And that was quite interesting to watch as well.
I think it is interesting. It's also interesting because it's not just like stocks and shares. And it's kind of a way to kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say play at it, because that's not what it is, because it's equally as serious.
It's still real money.
But it's its own kind of specific space where your interest is solely in the tokens that you have, rather than kind of on a wider scale, really, if you are talking about sports teams and things like that.
And I think that the barriers to access are kind of seemingly lower. Although maybe not in reality, actually, but it does seem like anyone can sign up and start trading fan tokens.
I think it is pretty easy, but I think as well, because so many like people of our age have images of like the generation behind us. But I think they are like, I still remember life when the internet was dial-up and you had to wait and be patient and listen to the little song it would play you before it would load a page for 2.5 minutes.
And hope that nobody called your house whilst you were surfing.
It was no terrible family emergency, because nope, I'm going to look at this one page for 7 hours. But yeah, so obviously we have the benefit of that, plus the benefit of having been a good age group to kind of move along as the world has. But people who are coming behind us as well, I think you're going to naturally have more of an affinity for things like cryptocurrency, where it doesn't seem like something that's alien to you or a different world. Whereas maybe stocks and shares and that kind of very 80s Reagan era Wall Street thing that I think a lot of people can think of initially, that's a completely different world to probably your reality, which is like Instagram, TikTok, the internet, and everything's online.
Yeah, and never having owned CDs or physical music or physical or DVDs or
like,
it's everything's virtual.
It's true, actually. I'd not thought about that angle before. Yeah, they already used to everything being quite virtual, so it's no different in their minds, maybe.
Do you think that's the next step for MotoGP then, is that each team will get their own fan token? Sort of Repsol Honda will launch theirs, KTM will launch another one.
I'm sure it'd be interesting to see.
Because that's happened in Formula One.
Obviously, yeah, exactly. And we saw, obviously, the MotoGP branded fan token was such a huge success as well. It sold out so quickly. Because I was refreshing that from my office in Austria. Just watching it, I was like, I'm quite impressed here. It's really going quickly. So yeah, maybe it will convince them to follow it as well.
Am I right thinking they started at 30 cents? the MotoGP fan token?
I think so. Euro cents, I think.
Or euros, yeah, 30 European cents. I vaguely remember seeing that in the article.
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember now. I don't know. This is one of those problems where you have conversations with people before you publish the thing, and you're like, which part of it was the truth that was written down and published, and which part was part of the kind of behind the scenes chat beforehand. But yeah, I think they were 30 cents. It's certainly super affordable as well, you know.
Yeah.
It's not like, yeah, one MotoGP fan token is going to set you back an entire day at work. It's something where everyone can get a foot in the door.
And that again is that kind of the barriers being low to, you know, for people to get involved. You know, for a couple of euros you can get yourself a handful of MotoGP bitchy fan tokens.
Exactly. And then the world is your oyster.
Potentially.
I was like, I don't know what else phrase to use that doesn't make me sound like I'm 60, but more or less.
That's great. Thank you very much, Fran, for coming on and talking about the MotoGP fan token. I think that's been really interesting to have that kind of perspective from a sport. So
you're very welcome.
So that's really interesting about the difference between the NFTs and the fan tokens, which is, I know we discussed in the first part, but you know, it's good to go back to that. And interesting how quickly they sold out. You know, there's these such passionate fan bases, and it's like Philipp said, building the community around the NFTs and the fan tokens is certainly the way to move forward, and getting these kind of invested members, not only as fans of the sport, but as fans of that side of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it shows.
Sorry,
it just shows the it shows the potential, like you say, that if we're doing these podcasts to educate ourselves, and hopefully some of you guys listening on NFTs, but the market must already be there if MotoGP is selling out so quickly.
Yeah, and we're talking about, these are major sports, you know, these aren't niche or hidden away sports, and they're not even the biggest sports in the world. Like football is without a doubt, I think, the biggest sport in the world, or soccer, but you know, it's becoming mainstream very quickly. You know, this time last year I'd never heard of NFTs at all, and I'm not even sure 6 months ago I'd heard of NFTs. No. So I think maybe that's a good opportunity there. Now we've got this picture, we've seen some cases, is to go back to Philipp, and he can give us our lesson for episode 5, part 2 of what are fan tokens and NFTs.
It's important to look at the project. What is it that is behind the project? What is behind the NFT project? Is it just someone that tries to get rich, or is there something valuable behind it? Is the blockchain valuable? Is the project valuable? Is the community valuable? Is there something behind the NFT? I think what people need to start looking for, and this is the most important buzzword to me, is utility. What can I do with my NFT? And that's what it is. Get out there, get crazy, get into the game. Look at it. Look at different platforms. Look at different marketplaces. Take a look at what's happening. How does it work? What do I need to do? Yeah, the NFT game is not about being rich or having a lot of money in your Ethereum wallet. In our platform, and this is also what we believe in, you can buy your cheapest pack for €4.99, right? You could be lucky, and there could be an amazing, scarce and rare NFT in there. But I think that's like my final words. That I think, get in the game, get a touch and feel, look at it, take a look. Do not neglect it because you don't understand blockchain as a technology. I don't truly understand. I don't truly understand what's behind it, but I can see the value of it, of what is it that we can use.
Sure, and you know, $4.99 for your first pack, the barriers are pretty low.
Yeah, I think, and that's our niche. We want to give it to the average fan. We want to make it happen to the student, to the normal person. I could buy $4.99. I could buy it. Other platforms, the barriers are higher, and that's okay. Different target group, different niche. Fair enough, right? There's not the one way to do it. We're talking about content here. Content can be used in multiple different ways.
Great. So, Philipp, thank you very much for your time this morning. So the title perhaps of our podcast, it's 21 for 21. So lessons about sport and media. I guess, is there any one sentence you'd like to give as a lesson about NFTs for the next few years? I know you've been so helpful so far. You've been giving us a 35-minute lesson, but is there any one sentence that we can summarize it up?
I'm convinced. I started researching this podcast, and I thought NFTs, like I started to understand it, but I didn't kind of get it, and I was sort of like, why would I go in for this? And now, having spoke to Joe at NiceHash, spoke to yourself, Philip, we spoke to MotoGP about their NFTs, and the more I kind of have these conversations with people, the more I'm sort of like, maybe there is something here. There is something that's grabbing my attention.
And this is like my key takeaway from day one when I started thinking about NFTs is this will not go away again, right? This will stay. Yes, maybe the bubble will burst, and that's good. Look at the .com bubble that burst. That's good that it burst, and then the good people, the good business can make good business models. So that's my key takeaway one. And the other one is, don't go exclusive. It doesn't make sense to give out exclusive licenses. It doesn't make sense to give, as a rights holder, you don't give out exclusive social media licenses. You don't do that. That doesn't make sense. The technology is way too young. Right? Look at there's so much potential out there, and that's what I would do. And from a user perspective, again, get in the game. Let's look at what's happening. And then if you're an art fan, get into art. If you're a sports fan, get into sports. If you like fencing, look at if there's any fencing NFT projects out there. If you like women's sports, come to FanZone. Like, that's something that we're pushing, right? Which I think is highly important. So yeah, that's kind of my key takeaway.
So thanks very much for listening. Thank you for the lesson, Philipp Harrold from FanZone Media. Thank you, Joe Downie again from NiceHash, and Fran Wyld from MotoGP. Thank you for you guys at home or on the bus or on the train or on the beach or whatever it is you're listening. Like and subscribe, and we hope to see you again.